VIC Toastmasters and guests of the VIC Toastmasters Club. Allow me to welcome you to our meeting today, our second meeting after our summer break. It feels like we're still grinding along to get started, but you know, the harder the wheels turn, maybe the more solid they are, and maybe once we really get rolling, you won't be able to stop us. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of our President, Valerie, who has been very, very busy and did say she would come to this meeting. So as soon as she comes, if I'm still up here, I will either continue or allow her to take over accordingly. And in true Toastmasters fashion, we are learning by doing. So I am the acting chairperson. I'm the chairperson of this meeting. I am the Vice President in Education of our club. So actually I'm responsible for doing everything. So if you have any problems, any things that need solving, and you don't know where else to turn, I'm the one. If you're trying to get onto Easy Speak and you can't get on there, I'll reset your password and give you another chance. If you haven't been entered in, if you haven't signed the visitors book, if you haven't been receiving invitations, I'm also acting Vice President for membership while our membership Vice President is off the scene for a couple of months back in France. So, we have a number of announcements. I guess we'll do them at the end because we have the competition coming up, and that would be something that we need to talk about. Next time we'll have to have our club competition, and there is then all the other competitions. I sent that information out in email. Allow me now to start the Toastmasters part of the meeting and just hand over. Guests. Thank you. Thank you for seasoned Toastmasters who can remind me what to do. We have a number of guests today. May I welcome each of our guests. And at the end of the meeting, I'd like to ask you to tell us what you thought of the meeting. Josie, this is your third time?
Yes.
Would you like to say anything now?
Yes, this is my third time, and after I attended the first time, I was always attracted to come back. Even though I missed many sessions because of my other duties, but I always wanted to come back and to become a member. Actually, I am thinking of becoming a member as soon as this session finishes.
Next time we will welcome Josie as our newest member. Would you like to say something?
This is my second time as a guest to this meeting. So,
Ilman.
And my first time was it was good. So I would like to, you know, I was also attracted to come here and maybe.
Welcome. You may or may not know, we welcome our guests to come 3 times, and after the third time we ask you to join. You can of course join after the first time or the second time, but after the third time then it's a bit more difficult for us to keep inviting you as a non-member. So we really encourage you to sign up the membership form and join us. Would you like to introduce yourself and say a couple of words, please?
Hello, my name is Andrea. I was very impressed last time that I joined. I was invited by Claire, so I'm looking forward to these sessions, and yeah, I hope I can join also the team. Thanks.
My name is Rito, and also I was invited by Claire. So I'm very glad. This is second time for me to come here. I'm very glad to be here. Also, I'm thinking about to be the member of the club.
So, we are a thriving club with new people coming all the time, and we just learning to become more and more active in our particular roles. So I would like to hand over to our Toastmaster of the day who will guide us through today's program, Krista.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, acting chairperson I should say. As Lily already pointed out, Toastmasters is all about learning by doing. So when I saw the program last night and I saw there was no Toastmaster of the day, I thought, okay, I'll do it. But I haven't done this for, I don't want to apologize, but I must say I haven't done it for a long time, so it's learning by doing again. Today's program is only one prepared speech, as far as I understand from the program, and then a table topic session. This is the usual part of a meeting is first prepared speeches, then table topic session, and then comes the very important part, which is the feedback, the evaluation session at the end. So, without much further ado, I'll invite our first speaker. No, sorry, I want General Evaluator first to introduce her team. Rina, would you please introduce your team?
Thank you, Madam. Toastmaster of the day. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I didn't do general evaluation job for a long time. So this morning I checked what I'm supposed to do, and it was such a critical view, and I will look at everyone how they behave, the timing and all these things, and I said, okay, I will try my best. So, what is if there is not an evaluation team? The job will be evaluated. Last week I cooked some food, and the people evaluating my food, how I cooked. So the same way our meeting has got also evaluated. There is an evaluation team. The first speaker is Adot, and her speech will be evaluated by Claire, not by you, Lily, because Claire came and she volunteered. And there will be an art counter, and the art counter is Toastmaster Stefan. He will count all the R's, and silence and unending sentences, and he will count, and then we will make some money for our lunch or dinner, for our social get-together. And there is a grammarian, and the Lily is the grammarian of the day today. No, Nicole. Nicole is the grammarian. Nicole is grammarian. She will do the grammar, and timekeeper is Monica. So this morning when we printed out, there were so many gaps, so I will talk about it later on. And there will be also a ballot counter. That's again me. So I will announce who is the best winner or the best table topics person. With this, I will return the stage to our Toastmaster of the day, Krista.
This is General Evaluator, may I?
Yeah.
Since as grammarian, I'm responsible for the word of the day.
Okay.
That was a last minute thing, and I thought I was going to give you a word of the day that doesn't need explanation, but that's a very, very important concept or a very important theme for our club, and that is cooperation. I'm sorry, that's all I have, so very good cooperation. If you can include that in your speech or in any intervention that you have, that would
Okay,
be
we will
good.
try our best to cooperate, everyone and everything in our speeches. With this, I hand over the stage to Krista, the Toastmaster of the day, to introduce the first speaker.
Thank you, Alina. As already announced, we have one speaker, first speaker and only speaker today is Adot. Adot is a very seasoned Toastmaster, of long standing in the club, and she's giving, as far as I understand, a technical presentation. This must be from Advanced Manual, is it? From Advanced Manual? Yeah, technical presentations. And this is probably going to be very useful for many people here in the room, because this has to be done in the work, and to learn how to properly do a presentation like that can be only of advantage. So may I invite Adot, our first and only speaker. Sorry, and the evaluation will be done by Claire, and she's going to read us now what is necessary for the evaluation.
Okay, so fellow Toastmasters honoured guests, I would like to tell you the objectives of adult speech. The title of her speech is Measuring Organisational Performance, and the objectives are to deliver an interesting speech based on a technical paper or article, effectively use a Microsoft PowerPoint slideshow to illustrate your theme, and provide additional information such as answers to questions using a flip chart.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Claire. May I now ask Toastmaster Adult to come and deliver her speech?
Hello. Fellow Toastmasters, good morning. I will greet you from this end, and then I will move to this end so I can manage the machine. Unfortunately, technology being what it is, there is no remote control to move my slides. So I have to do all of this manually. It's not a problem, it's part of being a Toastmaster. I need you to focus your attention that side. Once in a while you look at me, but most of the information is on the screen. Measuring organizational performance. The outline. Why do we measure performance in the first place? That's one of the questions I think I will try to answer in this presentation. In order to continue with that discussion, one of the principles behind performance is that you need to know what you're measuring. You can't measure it if you don't know what it is. So that's really a critical thing, and very often in organizations, that word "what" is hard to define. I will also talk about, in this case, the what is performance. And there are two key questions I'm answering. First one has to do with how is performance normally measured? And the second one is then, on that basis, how is organizational performance measured? And lastly, then, what would be a good set of measures? These are the three main issues that any organization would be worrying about when it's thinking about its organizational performance. So the first question, why do we measure? We want to know whether we're progressing or not. It's an important thing because in the natural world outside, everywhere in the world, universally, progress is considered to be a good thing. We also measure progress so we can compare and assess different organizations, different functions, different activities. We also measure so we can improve or change performance. We measure to report on successes and identify failures. We would also like to acknowledge and award success because in many organizations, awarding is a very political activity. Acknowledging it sometimes is done depending on the personality of the managers. Sometimes it's just not done, it's not a cultural thing. We also like to measure performance so we can introduce change, so that we can innovate, so that we can adapt. All these things are considered good because bad performance, everybody knows is not a good thing. So it's always a sense of improving, a sense of doing something better that motivates measurement. And I thought I'd use some illustrations from the internet because one of my assignments was to demonstrate from the internet. And the illustrations I've chosen have to do with sports. Because sports is one of the places where you can see the timing there, how important that is. The winner is the fastest. And it's stopped. Anyway, this was Usain Bolt. He won that in 9.58 seconds. To go back to the presentation, I have another example. In that case, it was speed and fitness. In this case, it's speed and skill in skiing. Both considered to be measures of good performance in sport. Of course, you have to be fit before your race. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to move all your joints properly. And you need precision. All these are done in preparation for the race. And hopefully that doesn't happen to you if you prepare properly. And here's the winner. The timers have to be extremely precise, because in this case it's in the hundredths of seconds that determines the winner. And there's a lot of skill going on in that particular example of performance. So, stop here and come back to measurements. You also need speed, skill, fitness, precision, control and precision. These are all different measures that are used in sports to determine good performance. And every sports person tries to have these skills and these characteristics in order to show that they're good at whatever sport they're doing. So we take that and adapt it to an organizational situation. And you'll find there are very similar types of criteria being used. A very common one is speed, timeliness, being quick, no delay, deadlines, meeting deadlines. Efficiency, using minimum effort, fuel, or power. In the case of an organization, it will be effort. Minimize staff, minimize use of your energy in the organization, how your building is run. Effectiveness. If you're effective, you achieve the goals with minimum inputs. And fitness, you have to be strong and healthy. It's the same with an organization. I think there's even a standard now called fit for purpose that is applied to an organization. If an organization is fit for purpose, it uses its resources effectively, it has good development results, there are people out in the field who can say we benefit from their services, and with little money they achieve big results. So there are implicit goals when you're measuring organizational performance. You have to minimize inputs. You have to minimize effort, energy, money, staff. And you need to have a mission beyond the goals themselves. With that mission, you become relevant. If your mission is not clear as an organization, your donors will rate you not very well. So that mission has to be understood by all your staff. It has to be understood by your donors. If they need information about it, it should be accessible, whether it's on the internet or in reports or in the organizational website. But that mission should be clear to anybody who wants to find out. And on that basis, then, the organization might be considered relevant. So, what exactly goes on when you're measuring organizational performance? You take those criteria I mentioned earlier, and then you use them in what's called results-based management, which is something everybody knows about, but when you try to apply it, it's not so easy. For an organization, results will be measured in 4 different ways, grouped together, of course. The mission, which I've mentioned earlier, that's important for your donors, it's important for your taxpayers and your sponsors. They also want to know how you differentiate strategically. In other words, if they were to look for your product in the market as an organization, would they be able to find it? And that means if you're an organization, like any UN organization, you have to have evidence and use this evidence to show that you're doing your mission and to show that you're reaching people in different parts of the world and that they're happy with whatever you're reaching. The other thing is also organizational engagement. In other words, does your staff understand what your mission is? Does your staff know, each person, what their contribution to the mission might be? And if that's not obvious to them, of course, you're not going to achieve your organizational excellence or good organizational performance. A 4th criterion is organizational transformation. In other words, do you use that information that you've collected to make decisions in the organization? So if we're in Toastmasters, for example, we know we need to collect members. That's our goal every year, to have at least so many members join. And if those members join, so many members move on to different levels, leadership levels, or bronze medal level, whatever the case may be. But there has to be some kind of goal that each Toastmaster is aiming for. Once we achieve this, then we would be rated an excellent organization or club. Then they add different donors these days for organizations. They add their own little important ones. Efficiency. Efficiency might be important for Germany, but not for Sweden or for Slovenia. But it's an important one. If you don't have it and you can't show it, then your ratings are not good. And if you're an organization, your good organizational performance rates should be high on at least 3 of those criteria. If not, then you get a red. They use the traffic system. Red is not good, you need to change. Yellow is approaching. Green is excellent. And you need to have you need to have at least 3 greens to be considered excellent. I'll quickly run us through what measures are used in organizations and compare that with what they do in sports. Come in, Barry. In organizations, the kinds of measures you use are called milestones, and you reflect them in your quarterly report, an annual report, you have midterm reviews. But if it's in sports, there's always a target. You're running a race, there's an end to that race. And there's a qualifying time to qualify for that race. If you don't have that time, you don't run. And that target is always present in every sport. For the organizations, you have indicators at different levels. As you can see there, countries, issues, departments. For sports, speed, fitness, weight, and those apply in sports for teams or individuals. In both cases, you analyze the results, and in both cases, you summarize those results in some kind of a report, which you submit to either the sports sponsor or, in the case of the organization, to the donors. So to close, I have a mantra for you. This applies for any organization and for any individual. If you can measure results, you can report success. If you can see success, you can reward it. If you can see success, you can learn from it. If you recognize failure, you can learn from it and correct it. If you demonstrate results, you can win public support. Time won't allow it. My last YouTube was on a beautiful piece of skill and fitness as well as competence. But I will not show it because time doesn't allow it. Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Adult, for improving our... sorry.
When you said was the evaluator, it says here that adults could provide additional information, such as answers to questions.
Okay. Are there any questions within the audience that you'd like to ask Toastmaster Adult on the subject? Anybody wants to ask something? Stefan?
How do you see this being applied at the moment at the United Nations?
In the UN?
Because I think everybody's complaining about the personal appraisal system that we got at the moment. I think your first point, the mission part, is very important. And with my previous employees, for instance, we had breakaway sessions. We tried to define the actual missions. I find it missing over here, but maybe, I don't know if we can give some comments on this issue.
I'll tell you what I do know. It's in varying degrees. Different organizations pick certain parts of it, but not the whole thing. And that's the challenge you're probably facing. So in UNIDA, for instance, we have a cascaded system which should inform all staff about the mission and therefore their possible contribution to that mission. But because cascading involves many different levels of senior staff, different staff apply differently, and it falls apart. So it needs a system where it's coordinated by someone, and most of the UN hasn't got there. As you know, Umoja has just been introduced, for instance. That's another cascading system. It's a global one for many different UN organizations. And I'm sure, again, they'll have issues by organization and within the organization. So it takes a while for this process to happen. In terms of performance for donors, there's not a conflict, but a bit of tension between the donors and the organizations, because they use their own standards to judge international organizations, and there's no clean match. That would be a quick answer.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Pierre?
Yes, my question would be, in a large bureaucracy such as ours, how would you go about rewarding success?
Oh. Rewarding success. Well, again, I'll speak from what happens in UNIDA. For the past 15 or so years, there's been a merit promotion program which awards promotions and monetary awards annually to staff outside the appraisal system. And that is really appreciated by most staff, because it means that the whole business of fighting with your neighbor and pleasing the boss, and it's a little more objective. It's done by a committee, and every recommendation, several, are submitted to this committee, and that committee then chooses on the basis of an objective review of merit, decides who deserves more than the other. So that's one way. Another way, of course, is to apply the results-based principle. If a staff person scores high, they deserve to be awarded for that high score. And that's a debate in its own self. Because then you have to talk to managers about the rating and whether the managers use the same type of standards for high and low. In UNIDO, it varies. There's some managers who will never give you the top mark, even though you're very good. And there's some managers who always give top marks. And the range between the poor and high is very small. So then you can't compare the rating, and these are the challenges of using a reward system. And it will never be perfect, but again, that's what I know.
So maybe you had a question?
Yeah, I've got a question. You mentioned organizational transformation. So how would you measure organizational transformation? What are some of the key elements that would define that an organization has transformed?
Usually, then you look at how they're applying their mission. That mission is key. So it has to be clear to you first, and then you see how is that mission being applied. And because they have a clear mission, you have a place to check. You said you would do 5 things, you've done 4.5. That's a quick way.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? No more questions? Well, I don't know what your present position is, Adolf, but I think management would be very wise to employ you as an advisor on these organizational measures. So maybe, maybe this was the beginning of something new for you. So thank you very much. And this brings us on to the next part of our meeting, which is the table topics session. May I ask Sunil, our table topics master?
Any comments?
Yes, and sorry, we have 1 minute for comments on this speech.
Yeah.
That's right, thank you for reminding me. 1 minute for giving comments on this little note that you have here. You can give comments to the speaker. Will the timer tell us when the minute is over?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. times over. Please put your slip of paper into this green cup. This brings us now, as I said before, to the next part of the meeting, the table topic session. A very much feared part of the meeting because you are being asked impromptu questions and you have to answer them on the spot. But nevertheless, this is a very good training for all of us because it really helps us to improve our speaking. So welcome, Sunil.
Madam Toastmasters of the day, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Table topics is a very interesting and an essential element to develop your speaking abilities. And as I say, this is about thinking on the feet. And to that extent, I invite your cooperation today to participate in it. I'll probably also invite the guests, if that's fine with them. So let's start. So the first topic that I have for you is, do you believe that children should be allowed to own and use mobile phones at school? And if I may ask our guest, Andrea, to speak about it, because she might be in that challenge whether to use or not mobile phone.
Yes, thank you, Sunil. Well, from my side, I would say in the middle of this generation. So I got one phone when I was about 12 years old, and I started experiencing this new life with the mobile phone. If you ask me, I don't think it's a good thing to give a mobile phone to children in a very early age, because this doesn't allow them to actually explore life as it is and have more contact to nature. I did it myself because I had a very limited access to my phone. It was only used for emergencies back then. Now with the smartphones, you're playing the whole time instead of going out and having fun in the nature. So I believe it will be very important to limit this access to the young generation. And yes, that's it.
So the next topic, we cannot see a world without television. I think this morning when you got up, and whenever you got a chance, there was something that's happening on television all the time. So is television an effective tool in building the minds of our children? Toastmaster Elman. Sorry, guest Elman.
Thank you. I think every technology has their benefits and also drawbacks. And regarding whether television could shape our minds, our children's minds, to some extent, yes. The children, they are so impressionable. They're easy to impress, so they might, look up to what they see, to what they hear, and everything. So the parent need to watch out what their children see and hear.
Thank you. Okay, this one is interesting. So I'll tell you a liner or a joke maybe. So a man had his credit card stolen, but he did not decide to report it to police. So everyone asked him why, and he replied, because the thief was spending less than his wife did. Toastmaster Valerie, we haven't heard of you for a long time. Are credit cards more harmful or helpful than cash?
Mr. Topic Master. Credit cards are very helpful, but I try to limit the use of them because I know that it can be very dangerous. So, and I had a discussion this summer with a friend of mine who paid effectively everything with credit cards. And I have to say that I don't like it because what I find is that at the end we can have sometimes very unexpected surprises. So I think in some cases it's good to know that you have a security on the side, and if something happens you have always, you know, something there to help you. But I think that when it's not something you can touch concretely, the link with your brain is not so deep. So I would say that's good. We have to live with our time, so credit cards are needed now. You know, when you want to make a reservation in internet or booking a hotel somewhere, you need your credit card. But I would like to limit the use of credit card. And personally, I do it that way.
So this is what a child wrote. Our school has a strict dress code. The only time we can dress the way we like is on Halloween Day. So I'll ask our guest, Eureka. Do school uniforms help to improve the learning environment?
I think from my understanding the answer is yes. Because in school their students are the same age, so if they wear the same uniform, they will behave the same things. If they make some mistakes, when they wearing a uniform, they will thought this is not so good. So this means that the uniform of the school make them to make something better and better. So I think this is good things.
Okay. We may have time for one more. So if I may, so this is a situational topic. So here is the situation. You are traveling for your dream job and you are on a highway, and suddenly you find that you got a flat tire. Then you reach out for your mobile phone, but there is only enough battery in there either to call your prospective employer or to call the road assistance. Toastmaster Nicole, please tell us, what would you do in this situation and why? Give us two reasoning as to why would you take an action that you propose now.
Thank you for this very interesting question. I will tell you what I'll do and then I'll add something to it. I think that what I will do is call my future employer first. Because if my job depends on the interview or depends on my meeting with that person, it's very important that he or she should know what's happening. And the other reason why I wouldn't call the garage, you said, or okay, is because I think that being a woman on the side of the road, I have other means of getting help. But what I would like to add to this is that I found myself not in a similar situation, but in a situation not a very few days ago, where I was going out of the garage and I had a card to go out so that the barrier would open. And sure enough, it didn't work. And of course I had a car behind me. And at one point I found myself unable to handle 3 or 4 stresses at the same time. I was a card that didn't work. I had noticed that my phone was running low on battery, so I couldn't call my husband, who was not very far away and had another card. And I wanted to go to the loo. So, at one point I said to the man who was, because I'm a woman, and there was a man behind me, I said, well, I can't go out. I can't go out. He said, oh God. He said, I'll help you. I knew he would help. So you see, that's going back to your first question.
So that's all I had. Thank you for all your cooperation to make it a lively and participative environment. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. These were very interesting questions and also very funny question at the end. So a sense of humor is always very valuable in this meeting. So we're now voting for the best table topic speaker. Please write on your little slip down there is a part where you can write. Only one person, not a sequence of persons, and then put it in this dark green cup, please.
Mention the names who spoke.
Yes, maybe this would be helpful. I wrote them down, the names of the people who spoke, so that you remember. The first one was Andrea, our guest, Andrea, whether mobile phones are a good thing to give to kids. The second was Ilman, is TV an effective tool for education? The third one was the story of the credit cards, and Valerie was giving us very wise answers. And the fourth was Eurito on dress code for children, uniform for children. And the last one was the famous story of the highway and the flat tire and the low battery. And Nicole gave us a very, out of her own experience, a very good example what to do. So here you are, 5 people, please. And when you're finished, then I'd like to invite our general evaluator. Our general evaluator, Ina?
Yep.
To come to the podium, to the lectern, and lead the evaluation section of the meeting, which, as we all know, is not the least of part of this meeting, because that's where we learn actually, by being evaluated and by evaluating. So Toastmaster Ina, please let us know what your evaluators have.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. So the speech of Edward will be evaluated by Claire, Toastmaster Claire. Toastmaster Claire, could you give us your evaluation?
Fellow Toastmasters, honoured guests. I was just finishing writing it. Toastmaster Adult. I found this presentation very interesting and relevant. I think it was relevant to all of us, and we could immediately see that. I thought it was excellent that you used a PowerPoint presentation, because it was very clear to us what you were talking about. You answered the questions very effectively. You didn't use a flip chart. It said in the objectives that you might use a flip chart, and that might make things clearer if you, for example, you talked about a mission. You could have put some bullet points or something, but that would have taken time, and we don't have that time, so I understand why you didn't do it. I thought that your sports analogy was extremely helpful, helped us to understand this very clearly. As always, your voice was strong and authoritative. You always have this authoritative feeling. And I would also like to commend you on your self-presentation. This is something that we don't normally comment on, but if you look at the way Adot is presented today, she looks extremely smart. She's wearing black and white, so this is also honouring your audience to look very nice. I once attended some training on giving presentations, and they said you should always wear black. And I thought, well, why should you always wear black? As my personal taste is to wear bright colours, because I'm also honouring my audience that way. And if I'm the one speaking, why should I not be colourful and attract some attention? So this is a matter of personal taste and preference, but I think it's nice to give some attention to our self-presentation. I also noticed that you use gestures. Fortunately, I had wheels on my chair, so as you moved about, I was sort of dodging back and forth. But I saw that you were using gestures. This made it very, very clear. You were informal, as you were supposed to be, according to the objectives of the speech. So you said things like, I thought I'd use some illustration. Language you were using was very informal. And then when a skier hit one of those vertical sticks that I don't know the names of, you just casually said, hopefully you wouldn't do that. So Adot took it in her stride as the video was proceeding. Some constructive criticism. You didn't explain why you were discussing this topic. So it left me wondering, oh, what does Adot do then? Why is she involved in this topic? So that I would like to know. You didn't explicitly relate it to us. It's always a good idea to tell people why you're discussing a topic. And this is something about English in particular, that we do very explicitly state connections between things. So you were addressing a whole group of people about this topic, and yes, we do see, since we're in the work environment, we do see implicitly that it is relevant to us, but you didn't explicitly tell us that it was relevant. By, for example, saying, well, we all get performance appraisals, don't we, or something explicit. In terms of your PowerPoint, although it was great to have it, I thought it was much too crowded, so you could have used a lot more slides. And I thought your main font was very dull, so it didn't stand out, it was very grey. And a third comment on the PowerPoint is that you didn't use a chapeau. So we had bullet points. For example, we had 5 bullet points beginning with if. And there was another one where we had 4 times critical criterion, something, critical criterion, something, 4 times. Well, you could have used a chapeau. Critical criteria, colon, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah? If, colon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah? So it would have made it less crowded and much clearer. And a passing comment, Valérie arrived late and you paused to help Valérie. Although that's very nice, you were the centre of attention. You were actually addressing all the people in the room, and I would suggest that they are the majority and they are your audience. So you might have left Valérie to cope on her own and not think about being polite. Yeah? So overall, I thought you were really calm and collected, as always. You made absolutely zero fuss about the hiccups, such as Valérie arriving late. And sorry, I mentioned that twice. It's not a pointed comment. And you certainly took the questions in your stride, so you were very calm and collected about just dealing with all the questions and very clear. So overall, I would say that it was extremely informative, extremely relevant, extremely helpful, very analytical, very authoritative and very thorough and very well presented. Congratulations.
Now Toastmaster Nicole, the grammarian, and plus how often did we use the word cooperation?
Oh.
Really used it twice.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
You're right. I mean, you're right. My fault. But what I wanted, because I was so, attentive to what, to our first speaker, what she was saying, and I forgot about cooperation. Because she sort of took me back to 5 years ago when I left the UN. And I thought, oh my God, all those words I had forgotten, all those UN, expressions in that UN jargon. It's not a criticism, it's just that's the way people speak in the UN. But when we leave the UN, we forget about that. But what I liked, really, was that we had twice
that I noted expressions that were not UNEs, and I think it was you who said to thinking on your feet. Is that right? That's nice, or expressions, just nice, simple English expressions. And also Claire used zero fuss. And I like that, zero fuss. It's okay. It's also simple English. I noted a few things. Oh, I liked, from Valerie, I liked the unexpected surprise. I like that expression. I don't know when a surprise can be expected, but I like it. I think that one should not say in an early age, but at an early age. And that we might also want to avoid, when we use a noun, then repeating it with a pronoun. I mean by that, when you say the children, they do this and that. You know. But I know people do it all the time in my own language, and I know it's very common in English too, but I think the they is not necessary. And that ends my report as
Thank you, Toastmaster Nicole. Now, Toastmaster Monica, how did we do with our timing?
Our first speaker, Adult, she gave a technical speech and she used 12 minutes 16 seconds, so it was perfect timing, I would say. Then we have the table topics. We have Andrea, who used 1 minute 7 seconds. Ilman used 39 seconds. Valerie, 1.11. Yuriko, 0.35. Nicole, 2 minutes. So I think what is below 1 is a little bit too short. It should be a little bit longer. Then we had Claire. Claire exceeded a little bit of timing. She spoke for 5 minutes 21 seconds. And that's it.
Thank you, Toastmaster Monica. So I put Toastmaster Stefan as an account at the last, so that we can count the hours of Monica. I am very strict with her. So how did we do with our hour counting?
I have the same privileges as Claire.
I actually forgot to rate Monica.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, first of all, I don't think we are going to get rich today, because I think people in general did very well. I must congratulate Adot actually for such a long speech. I didn't really catch a single or ah, really fantastic. The champion, like always, is Claire, of course. With her I counted 17.
Oh, wow!
So,
Oh, really?
yeah, so for the rest, okay, I'm not going to include myself, of course. Krista, I think sometimes you use the word actually. I counted it twice. Which you might want to eliminate. For the topic speakers, Elman did also very well, about 9 times. You used the word. All the rest of the speakers, I think they used it once for that matter. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Toastmaster Stefan. Toastmaster Lily was kind enough to count the table topics winner, and it is my pleasure and privilege and honor to announce it. It is Toastmaster Nicole. The main thing is being a woman, I get a help. So thank you for that. Okay, as a general evaluator, last Friday I checked the Easy Speak, it was almost empty. That made me a little bit worry about it. So, and when I registered it, so once again, my advice is, if you are coming, please go to Easy Speak. The ideal is something here, but what's happening is something here. We have to find a middle path. somehow middle path, which means by Monday before, if we can fill all the gaps, then when we come here for the meeting, it is not a rush or to change the name, look for another person and this and that. That is one point I noticed, but we say that all the time here anyway. The second thing is what I noticed, our Toastmaster Gita, even though she came very late, she didn't have a chance to speak. She didn't have a chance to say. So next, the table topics master, no matter who is next time, pick up those people who do not have a chance to stay. And in this case, it was Toastmaster Gita.
But I could announce that it will send out very soon an email and ask for the new membership fee contribution.
Okay, so that is one thing I noticed. Yeah. Now, if you have enough time, I'll tell you what happened to you, what happened to me 2 weeks ago in the Neue Donau. I was taking a morning walk and I wanted to throw out a waste garbage, and I saw in the open garbage bin a key, bunch of keys. And I said, who throws out a key? I didn't think much about it, and then I walked away. On the way back, I looked into this open garbage bin again. Who throws out a key? So next to the key thing, there was a bag. There was a sporty, dirty bag. I lifted at the bag. And behind the bag, all sorts of credit cards. I was thinking of your credit cards. And the Deutsche Bildausweis, Gesundheitsausweis, all the things were lying around, including something else. I picked up everything together, put it in the box, and then I came one day morning, I came to the office and I sent an email to the person who is the owner. Half an hour later, and she's living in Berlin, and the bag was stolen in Altadona. The money was gone, the mobile was gone, all others, she got it. And half an hour later, the stepson, someone, my family relative, came to the checkpoint one and picked it up. But this lady had so many credit cards. I was amazed the number of credit cards she had. I have only one credit card. So that was, I was thinking of it when you talked about the credit cards. So that's a little bit of sharing of what happened on Sunday morning in Neue Donau. So with this, I return to the floor either to Valerie or to Lily.
Would you announce it?
To Valerie, okay, because Valerie.
So, fellow Toastmaster, honored guest, as you have all noticed, I was late. I don't know exactly what Lily presented, but perhaps I will repeat it briefly. Did you touch the contest?
Only touched. It needs to be.
Okay. So, briefly, I will mention 4 points in the business section. First, contest. We will have here on the 22nd of September our club contest, which will be a contest in 2 areas: humoristic speech and humorous speech and table topic. For that contest, we need you to register and to participate, you know, to be competitor, and it's very important because it's something fun, the contest here within the club. And we will need also people picking roles, different kind of role, like master of ceremony or judges, or we will send you some information very briefly about this next contest, and we will encourage you to all participate to that contest. For instance, if you are a bit ashamed to take a role as a contester in the humorous speech, you can perhaps participate in the table topic, because it will be exactly what Sunil did now. You will have to answer, you know, on a very spontaneous way to question, and it's something, you know, it's good. It's the goal of Toastmaster. These contests are really the goal of Toastmaster. So please try here to participate. All of you, even if you are afraid, it's not something to be frightened about, it's really something fun and concrete. And it's during the contest that we learn even more, you know. So it is very important to participate to that contest. We will have also on the 22nd of September our area governor, so someone very important for our club, who will come here, visit us, and who decided to take a role and to be a judge. Okay, so I think I met him once, perhaps because he was a president of another club before, so you know, he will come, he would like to see how it works here, and he said, Valérie, I will participate, I will take a role. So you see, it's the spirit of Toastmaster. We pick up roles everywhere, and we don't think sometimes too long. So try to be like him, try to be very spontaneous, as we are less, unfortunately, nowadays. Perhaps we think too much and we don't do enough things on the spot. In that competition, we will select one winner in each category, and each of the winner will move on to a next level of competition, which is called area contest. Okay? And this area contest will take place here in Vienna on the 3rd of October. It is near to Freyung. It's a place near to Freyung, so you will receive also information about that contest. That contest will take place on Saturday, a whole Saturday, divided in two sections. First section in the morning for the German contest, and in the afternoon for the English contest. Because this area contest will group all the clubs pertaining to the area. So everybody, every club will send the winner of his...
It was two, so we can send two.
Yeah, okay. And this person will meet there and will compete together. So it is also something really important. If you can make it, try to go to this area contest, because you will be there. If you are a real participant competitor, it's also exciting to see, you know, how it works. For us, if we don't compete directly, we have to go to watch, to see how people do among the other clubs. And if we have our own people competing, it's also good to support them and to be behind them. I think it's the team spirit, I would say. It's another part of our Toastmaster club and mentality. It's to support the colleagues when they go for the competition. And also there you will have workshops. And we will have here someone from our club giving a workshop. It's Maria Teresa. She will give a workshop, so it's also good to go and see her giving that workshop, and you will have 3 workshops. So if you don't want to go directly and listen to Maria Teresa, you can go and see other workshops, but I think it's very interesting. Okay, so 2 important dates, 22nd of September and 3rd of October. Okay? I will come perhaps next week when we will have our contest. I will explain what will happen after the area contest, because we will have a division contest and a district contest. You know, it's the way Toastmaster is working. Okay? Second point for today, Brigitte, you mentioned that we will have to pay our fees.
Yes.
So when do we have to pay these fees, the latest?
By the end of September, I should receive it from you to be able to transfer it to Toastmasters International, our dues portion. If you miss this deadline, then you will be, as of October, a graced member, and then you still can pay your membership fee, but it would be good to collaborate and to receive it by the end of September. Oh, thank you very much. It's 48 euros for the 6 months, and I will send in this email all the bank details so that you can transfer it to the Toastmasters account. But if you want to pay it in cash, I also take it and send you an email confirmation, and then I'll pay it for you to the Toastmasters account.
Thank you, Brigitte. So it is also something very important. Don't let Brigitte running after you for the payment of the fees. It is also part of the Toastmaster mentality, is that we do things, you know, spontaneously, and she's there to collect the funds, but please do your part also and try to be active and to pay the due fees. Third point, we did not talk, we exchanged emails about that. I don't know if you spoke about it, about the donation. I will give you the floor for that because Claire got a brilliant idea, and I think it was a good idea, but it needs to be discussed. I don't know if we have so much time to discuss it, but in 2 minutes, can you explain briefly your good intention you got 2 days ago by writing an email to us?
Fellow Toastmasters, honoured guests, I'm a member of the UNODC Staff Council, and we had a meeting last week at which we discussed the situation of the refugees at Treiskirchen, and it appears that they do not need goods because the Austrians have been very generous and given a great deal of clothing and toys and all sorts of things that the refugees need. But apparently the charities who are working with the refugees need money for projects and I think buildings. So they're asking for donations. So the UNODC Staff Council is making a donation of I think €7,000 to Treiskirchen. And also IAEA Staff Council, I think, has given a considerable amount of money. So I wondered whether the club, this is a bit outside our normal domain, but the circumstances are really quite unusual. It's just an idea that perhaps our club might wish to make a small contribution from our funds, if indeed we have sufficient funds, and I don't know, I'd have to ask the treasurer, whether money is available to do that.
Money would be available, but it has to be discussed.
But it's just the idea. We would like to see if you, because of course it should be, this idea should be taken at the level also of the executive committee, but we would like to share our project to help poor people with the money we receive from you also, not all the money because we have to send also your fees to Toastmaster International, but we have a little bit more money left, and we would like to do something to make a good action with that money. We don't know exactly how much we can give, so we have to see, but I think whatever we give is something positive, and it's always a good gesture, and I think it's a beginning, whatever.
So if I can just come back on that, it is purely at the level of an ideal, because our members pay their dues for the members to be members of the Toastmasters Club. So this is sort of outside the normal realm of activities. And if people are opposed to the idea, of course, I think that's also quite acceptable to consider that this has no connection with Toastmasters. So I might suggest that perhaps we have a vote on Doodle where you can say yes or no and also put your comments.
Okay,
something like that, so that we make it inclusive, so that if in fact the membership does not think this is a good idea, they have an opportunity to say so.
Yeah, or perhaps they send an email directly to one person mentioning, I agree, I don't agree. If some people does not want to see, it's perhaps private, so Doodle, it's too obvious. Perhaps it's better to, you can write perhaps just a line.
Or the alternative would be that we just have a collection in the plan. That would be an alternative.
Yeah.
So we'd like to hear people's views on that.
So could we fix this for next meeting in between, or is it urgent to do something this week or beginning of?
It might be a good idea to deal with it now while the situation is still very urgent.
Okay. So you will receive, I think, by email more information about this item. And last but not least, we would like to know your impression as guest in that meeting. So, Enria, could you talk briefly about your feeling in assisting this meeting?
Well,
One or two sentences?
it was again very interesting. I really appreciate the fact that, to have so interesting presentations, and that the whole session is very well structured. So I will come again, and then I hope to join you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ilman, sorry.
Again, I was impressed and interested to see how the Toastmasters do
Organize.
Yes. So I hope I could come again next time, and I'm really interested.
It's your first time?
No, it's the second time.
Ah, it's the second time, okay. Yes, we hope so too. Huh? And you, Vito?
Yeah, also for me, I think it's very wonderful, and I'm very interested in the Toastmaster. And what I want to know is how to be the member of this Toastmaster.
So stay here and we will talk about it with you just now after closing the meeting. Lily.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mine.
So I think that now we can. Are you a guest also for today? Oh, sorry. What's your name? Yossi. So Yossi, what are your impressions for today?
Very good. Somehow I understood that 3 times as a guest is mandatory. So I was
To become a
waiting to finish my mandatory probation period.
It's your second time or
Third.
Ah, third time. Okay.
So I become a member as well.
Wonderful. So, I think that now the meeting is closed, so please register for the contest because it's the more exciting part in Toastmasters. So try to pick any kind of roles and participate as a contestant or whatever. It will be fun. Goodbye.